Welcome back to another episode of Birding Hotspots. We're heading over to South America and Colombia. In this episode, we're going to take a windy 3-hour drive from Medellin down to Jardin to see some incredible bird life. Unlike a lot of towns in Colombia, Jardin has remained largely unchanged for the last 140 years. The town is characterised by the whitewashed buildings, with brightly painted doors, chairs and balconies. We stayed 3 nights at the Casa Passiflora, where as soon as you stepped out of your door, you're teased with some photos of some amazing local bird life. For most of our bird watching here, we used a local guide, Alejandro from Kamarija Experiences. Let's go visit his coffee plantation, where there's some amazing local bird life. The bird watching strategy here was about as easy as it gets. Nail a couple of bananas to a perch and watch all the birds come in. As I mentioned in my previous video, it can be tricky to get the ID of some of these birds correct, especially as I'm not used to them. If I've got anything wrong, let me know in the comments and I'll update in the YouTube description. Anyway, let's look at some more birds. We did spot a couple of hummingbirds around here. First up is this western emerald, which has got a mouthful of feathers which it will be using for some nesting material. The other hummingbird we spotted was this green hermit, which was in a very dark part of the garden, which made photography very tricky. Let's go back to the bananas and some more birds. It was a bonus getting great views of this yellow-backed oriole. And then, as an added extra, we got to see some brood parasitism at work. This is a young shiny cowbird. Shiny cowbirds will lay their eggs in the nests of other species, and their offspring rely entirely on their hosts for parental care. They use about 250 different host species. The oriole was taking great care of its adopted cowbird, giving it a good feed of banana. The last bird we spotted at the property was probably my favourite. It was our first look at a barbet. This is a female red-headed barbet. They can be found from Costa Rica all the way through to Peru. The next day was the one I was most excited for. A very early start, a big truck, and a very windy road to get all the way up to the cloud forest. At 2,700 metres, This is a bird watching site with some fantastic high altitude species to see. It was quite cool at these altitudes, and there was a little bit of rain about, as you'd expect in a cloud forest. One of our favourite things to do here was just sit back with a hot cup of tea and watch the hummingbirds. Photographing and videoing hummingbirds can be quite chaotic. Trying to work out what species is what and making sure you've at least got one photo of everything can be quite tricky. Anyway, enjoy what I've managed to capture for you. Hummingbirds really are incredible birds, and here's some amazing facts about them. They're the only birds that can fly backwards, upside down and sideways. They have better hearing and vision than humans and can see ultraviolet light. Their brain makes up 4% of their weight, which is the largest of any bird. And they are the world's smallest birds, with species averaging 8.5 centimetres long. It was cool seeing our first wood creeper. Much larger and heavier than our Australian tree creepers, they behave in much the same manner. There are about 63 species of wood creeper, found mostly in Central and South America.
Hello. Is that nice?
Steal our breakfast.
Yum yum.
Copetes.
One of the side activities we did here was go with a local guide and climb high into the cloud forest and hopefully see a couple of species of Antpitta. Here is our guide calling for a chamois Antpitta named Linda the Antpitta. It seemed to respond to its name and eventually came out to show itself.
Venga, niña, venga, toma. Toma, toma. Venga. Toma. Eso. Venga. Okay.
Both these Antpittas are relatively shy and are only found in high altitudes from 2,000 to 3,000 metres. If it wasn't for the guide to make these birds used to humans, it would have been nearly impossible to see them. was cool seeing some of the Antpittas, fruit eaters, and plenty of great thrush. But the absolute highlight in the mountains was this black-billed mountain toucan. What a spectacular bird. These toucans are high altitude birds, found in the Andes from Venezuela through to Peru. They usually occur from 1500 to 2500 metres. They are quite uncommon, usually found singly or in pairs, and quite often feeding around fruiting trees, just like this one. A trip to the Colombian cloud forest wouldn't be complete without getting close to an oversized insect. Our adventure up in the mountains had come to a close, so now it's time to make our way down the mountain and see what birds we can find on the way back to Jardin. The eastern and western wood pewees are almost identical. They were once considered a single species, but are now separated into two different species. They are usually identified by their call. In this case, our guide determined this was an eastern wood pewee. One bird you won't have any trouble identifying is the cinnamon flycatcher, a beautiful bird that is found in the mountains from Venezuela through to Argentina. The yellow-eared parrot is classified as vulnerable and is only found in this very small part of Colombia. We didn't have great views of the bird, but I was happy to come away with a little bit of video. We got back to Jardin that night and enjoyed some of the town's hospitality, which included Racy's restaurant, which had some of the best food we've ever eaten anywhere in the world. For our last stop, we're heading down to the Cock-of-the-rock Lek, a privately owned reserve that is about 3 blocks away from the centre of town. Pay your entrance fee and then walk in and enjoy the grounds. Before we look at the Cock-of-the-rocks, let's see what other birds we can find around here. This ended up being Sonia's favourite bird for the whole trip to Colombia, the Andean motmot. There are 7 species of motmot found throughout South and Central America. The Andean is one of the larger ones, measuring up to 50 centimetres long and weighing nearly 200 grams. They can be tricky to photograph as they generally prefer the dark forest, but they do sit pretty still, which makes it a little bit easier to get some shots. Time now to check out the bird which was the very reason we came to Jardin, the Andean Cock-of-the-rock. Having a bird lek so close to town made it very easy to get some photos and videos of these beautiful birds. A lek is where male birds perform competitive displays to attract females for mating. And there were plenty of males here putting on lots of displays. Fantastic for photography. Really hope you've enjoyed a look at some of the birds that can be found in Jardin and the surrounding cloud forests. Next time on our third and final Colombia video, we're heading to Cartagena and the Santa Marta Mountains to look at chlorophonia, some monkeys, also some Antpittas and some more tanagers. Thanks and see you next time.